So the story that I'm going to share is kind of embarrassing for me because it shows how unloving and yeah, just unloving I was. But I hope it just encourages you that God can change anyone and make them better. And so when I started my residency program, I was slightly homophobic, and two of my five fellow residents in my entering class were homosexual, and I have to say, honestly, it really just bothered me in the beginning. And so it bothered me so much that I realized that there's something wrong here, because I looked at everybody else and they loved them, but I didn't. And I realized that that's wrong. As I even told God, I was like, God, I'm the Christian in the group. I should be the one being an example of love, but I'm not. And so every day I would come home and I would pray and I would be like, God, please change my heart. Please give me love. And at the end of 3 months, God did. And he gave me so much love that, they became one of my best friends while I was in residency. And I still love them today. And it was such a obvious love that in third year when we graduated, one of my friends who doesn't believe in God, he said to his wife, Sapna's the first Christian I've ever met who actually loves homosexuals. And so it was a real thing, and even my patients noticed it. So about 3 to 6 months into my residency, I had a patient who transferred it into my panel, and he was gay, and he just liked me and I just liked him. Like, we got along really well. We used to, I was treating him for depression and anxiety, and we just had a really good relationship. And my second year, one of the residents ended up doing a project where they would ask their patients 5 questions about what they believe in God, and then 5 questions about how they want their healthcare provider to address that. And so that was in our waiting area. And when I walked in to the room, he's like, Dr. Jan, I am so offended that this questionnaire is in your waiting area. And I told him, oh, it's part of this project that one of the residents is doing, and I'm sorry it offended you. And we went through whatever we were doing. And I used to wear a cross back then, just so that patients would know that I was a Christian. And I didn't say anything more than that to him at that time about my walk with God or anything like that, or I hadn't shared anything more than that with him about my walk with God. And as I was leaving and I had my back to him and my hand on the doorknob, I just felt like God was saying, tell him. And so I turned around and I said, so you'd be really offended if I offered to pray for you? And I kind of smiled at him, and he smiled at me, but as we made eye contact, he knew I was serious. And then I walked out. And the next time I saw him, he brought up God. And every time we would meet, he would bring up God, whether it was some missionary friend that he really admired or something else. And things were going really well for him. And I took him off all his meds my third year. And he was going to be moving to New York. He was going to be working on Broadway, and things were looking good. And then 9/11 happened, and he called me and he said, Dr. Jan, my partner was supposed to be at the World Trade Center when it went down, but he was sleeping. But his hotel is really close and it's gonna fall down, and they're evacuating the whole place, and I'm just really nervous. Can you please just give me something? And so I gave him some Valium, and then a couple of days later he calls me and he's like, Dr. Jan, I have been calling every hospital, I have been calling everything, I cannot find my partner. I don't know if he's dead or alive, and this medicine isn't doing anything. You have to do something more for me. And I'm thinking, I really can't give him anything stronger than that. And I wanted to do something for him just because I really cared about him and I wanted to help him through this time. And so all I could say was, I can pray with you if you want. And I thought he was just going to get upset, but instead he said, yes, please, Dr. Jan, pray with me. And so I prayed with him on the phone, and then I asked him to see me that week on Friday. And when I entered the room, as soon as I entered, he said, Dr. Jan, I need God. And for the next 20 minutes, our whole appointment, he was telling me how he's been running away from God, and he's been trying to trying to fill the emptiness in his heart with sex and drugs and this and that, and what he's really needed is God all along. And every time I would open my mouth to say something, he would just say it instead. And yeah, and then from that point on, every time he came, we had a great discussion about God. And yeah, so God is a really good God, and he does a lot of good things. And as he creates more love in us for people, we'll see more and more people come to God and their lives changed as well. So I just encourage you, maybe there's an area in your heart where you aren't so loving and you realize it, and just ask God to change you, because once he does, it's not only going to transform your life, it's going to change the lives of those around you as well.